What up with my people? Welcome to Movement Nerd number 5. Today we're going to be geeking out on something that I spend a lot of my time thinking about, which is the relationship between specificity and the value that comes from being a generalist. Now, I first got this idea from this awesome man over here, 𝕊𝕚𝕕, and it's been incredibly valuable to myself through my movement journey, but it's been a developing understanding, so I just kind of want to break down some of my thoughts about this, right? One thing we know for sure about fitness is that your body specifies to whatever pressure or adaptation you put upon it, right? So if you do a lot of push-ups, you get good at push-ups, right? If you run a lot, you get good at running. This is super simple stuff. So there's a lot of value in specifying in a particular direction. And I think about that almost like a continuum path. So if we have running over here, we have, let's say, squatting over here. There's separate directions, right? You can either run a lot, get better going that way. You can squat a lot, get better going that way. But both of those ends of the spectrum kind of work legs primarily. So there's somewhere similar on the range that you could adapt to. Something like maybe, for example, curls. Might be down here. Say you're trying to work a lot of biceps. You might adapt it that way. A lot of guys in the gym work a lot of arms and don't work a lot of legs. That's the opposite directionality of specificity. You can kind of grasp thinking about it like that. What really fascinates me is how much value can be found in generalizing your practice, but also how overgeneralizing can be detrimental. For example, I like to practice a lot of different things. I've done yoga, I do jujitsu, I lift weights, I run, I do FRC for my joints, I dance, I roll ropes, and that diversity of stimulus has created a very well-rounded structure, which is how I refer to my body. But I'm not as developed in very specific ranges as people who have dedicated themselves to those specific things. For example, I have coworkers who are very good at Olympic lifting. It's what they do, and they're amazing at it, and I am nowhere near as capable as them at that. But I like to think of my training in a more general sense, thinking in terms of like, what can I do that will aid me in everything else that I could possibly want to do, right? So it's almost like, to me, this is the circle of all possible things that you could be and adapt to in your body's physical potential, right? And let's kind of put some points along that line. Like we had running up here, and kind of close to running might be squatting. Some people would say it's not close, but they're both low body exercises. Something down here might be pull-ups. And then, who knows what end of the spectrum something like dance goes to, but it's on there, right? Or let's say throwing, pitching mechanics, or joint conditioning, which is kind of, joint conditioning is an interesting little side thought. We won't go down there right now. But if these are all the different ends of the spectrum that you can develop in, you start somewhere in the center with the body that you have. And your body has different dispositions based on the environmental pressures that you grew up in. But as you start to do more of these practices, you adapt. So if you do a bunch of pull-ups, you go deep into the pull-ups. But as you go deeper towards those pull-ups, you move farther away from running and squatting. As you're getting better at pulling, you are not getting better at running. It's simple stuff, right? So what if, instead of going super deep in one direction, we kind of generalize? We go, because notice, the farther I go towards pull-ups, the farther away I am from running. So it's not even that this isn't helping me get to there, it's that it's actually taking me farther away from there. And that gets a little complex. But let's just say, what if I do one day of pull-ups? So I go a little bit that direction, and then I go, run another day. I go a little bit that direction, and then maybe I dance another day, I go that direction, and spend some time throwing, I go that direction. Now, I haven't gotten really good at any of those things, but I'm well-rounded, right? And all of these things do have carryovers into the others, because we only have one body that we're using. And I found a bunch of value in generalizing my training. But here's where things get interesting. You can be way too general, right? So if you generalize too much, if you go one step this way and then one step that way and then back this way, you never end up actually going anywhere. You have to pick some directionality to progress in, right? You have to pick something that you get better at, which is going to take more of your time, it's going to take you away from the other possibilities. So specificity is a very important trait of adaptation and building up the body and movement capacity that we want. But so is generalism, and it's a balancing act between the two. I haven't quite figured it out. It's a very complex thing when you start to overthink it. More to come on this subject later. I would love to hear how you guys are thinking about this. I just wanted to share this thought with you. And if you got something to say about how you think about specificity and generalism, please let me know. I would love to get a conversation going. I want to talk to more of you nerds out there. Yeah, I guess the last thing that I would say, I'll end it there. Much love, guys.